Hello and welcome to another episode of On the Floor with Wayne and Rob. I'm Wayne Highlander, Director of Sales for Bona Adhesives, and you are?
Rob Johnson from the Bona Training.
How are we doing, Rob?
Pretty good, man. How you doing?
I'm doing okay. I had a setback. I went to a basketball, this time of year I go to a basketball tournament, and I love basketball and high school basketball, and I went to a tournament. And I thought, I'm not going to stay for the late game because it's getting kind of late already. I got an hour and a half drive, about an hour and a half drive home. And I came out and I had a flat tire. I didn't realize that. I was driving down the road and went, uh-oh. And it showed me I had a flat tire. I pulled over. I have AAA. Said, all right, I've never used AAA before. And I've had it for 10 years in Tennessee. I've never used it. And they said, all right, we're experiencing a high volume of calls right now, which is not even remotely possible in this little town, but whatever. 4 hours, Rob. 4 hours I sat there waiting for AAA. And finally I called him back and he said, we're experiencing, I said, look, that's a lie. You're not experiencing anything, okay? There's nothing going on in this town. There's nothing going on. Let's just call it what it is. It's a day after Christmas and nobody wants to work, okay? So is somebody coming or not? She goes, well, you might be better off if you leave the car and, is there a way you can get a taxi home or something and or Uber home and come back tomorrow?
There's all sorts of cab service in these little towns in Tennessee.
Yeah. I said, I'm trying to figure out why I have been paying this every month for 10 years. And the one time I need it, you're on your own is what you're telling me. So, yeah.
So they want you to stand outside of your truck in the middle of nowhere and just hail a cab. Like you were in Times Square.
Right.
Yes.
And so I brought it to today I brought it to the truck to a tire guy and said, hey, can you just, I don't know, must have hit something, whatever. And the tire doesn't have 3,000 miles on it. They're expensive tires. And I came back there expecting to see my truck with my tire back on, right? And I still have the spare on there. He goes, yeah. He goes, you can't be fixed. I go, what do you mean it can't be fixed? He goes, it looks like you hit a bone or something. And it just won't hold the patch. So I don't know how I would have hit a bone.
A bone?
Yeah, that's what I said.
What kind of bone?
I don't know. I mean, I know I hit this one dude, but that didn't think it was that bad. Well, I don't know. It must have been a deer or something. I mean, I didn't hit any animals. It must have been something laying in the road, I guess. I don't know.
A bone.
It's annoying.
That's a new one.
Yeah. Rob, so what do you got? You want to go right to the show, or did you have anything you want to say?
I don't know. Did we talk about our Christmas school?
You did, yes.
Yeah. Are you sure?
I thought so.
I mean, what we did at the school. Or
Well,
why we did the school. Let me get into it. I don't think we talked about it yet.
Okay.
We did our annual Christmas school a couple weeks back. And, we had the idea of, and this Christmas school, I always thought we did this school because, a lot of guys who are out there on their own, sanding floors and everything and doing their thing, they don't get a chance for a big Christmas party, like office Christmas parties and stuff. So in a goofy way, I thought, we can do a Christmas party / school. And it's been, I think we had like 45 people at this school. It was huge. Huge.
Wow.
But this year, we said, hey, we're not going to charge anything for the school, but we'd love you to bring something for Toys for Tots.
Oh, that's awesome.
Your guy, Frank Coppolino, somewhere in Brooklyn or something, he's in with Toys for Tots. So we asked Frank, hey, can you get us a box or, 2 boxes of toys, 2 boxes, and we told everybody coming to the school, hey, we're waiving the fee, but please bring a toy for the kids for Toys for Tots, and I tell you what, we had a videographer there and he videoed, the whole first day of people bringing in the toys and everything. And Wayne, I got to tell you, if you needed some Christmas spirit, that was the way to do it because you know Frank and I were talking. We had the two boxes there, and nobody was there yet. It's like 7:30, and we're both nervous about are we going to be able to fill these boxes? Because I'm thinking
Yeah.
you can't send these boxes back empty, and how the hell much is it going to cost me to fill these boxes on our own? You
If
know,
you have to, yeah.
if we have to, because there's no way, you know.
Yeah.
So Frank said, yeah, I was up the night before thinking, oh man, what if nobody brings a toy? You know, well, I'll tell you, it was like to see guys walking through the door, grown men, younger men, floor guys, hardened floor guys, walking through the door with 3-foot dolls,
Wow.
basketballs, toys. Some guys were like, look at the size of this tank, you know.
Wow. Wow.
I mean, the look, and every single person coming through the door just had this big, freaking giant smile on their faces. You know, they were all looking at each other's toys and comparing and talk. It was, I'm telling you, it was just what a way to start the school off. And you could just see how happy these guys were to, you know, be given something. You know what I
Wow.
mean?
Wow. Yeah.
Well, not only did we fill up two of those boxes, we needed another one. Everybody brought so many toys. We filled up about 3 boxes um, for the Toys for Tots and those kids. And I'll tell you, um, it just set the tone for an amazing class. And we had a blast doing it. You know, Santa was there. Santa was running the machine and even
Hmm.
doing some coaching and everything. I'll tell you what, that that made my whole holiday season just to see the big smile on every guy walking through there with a toy. You know, it was great.
That's
So
awesome, Rob. How cool is that? That's
yeah,
very nice.
it was. And you got to give a shout out to Jeff Ofredo. I mean, that's his training center,
Yep.
and him and his family go in the weekend before and completely decorate the stuff. Lights, presents under the tree, a tree. Um, you know, we had great food and just you know, great camaraderie. Every so many people were there. Howard Brickman came, and all of a sudden he was talking to one kid about acclimation. You know, and I said, Howard, do me a favor. Let's do an impromptu. And
Oh,
Howard did
nice.
like an hour impromptu acclimation thing for everybody. So I mean, it was just
Wow.
you know, you plan for these things and you hope they go off,
Yep.
you know, really
Yep.
good.
Yep.
But I'm telling you, it just went off
Hmm.
amazing, and you know, we can't wait to do it again next year. You know, everybody's already talking about bigger and better, you know, next year. But I'll tell you,
Well,
that Toys for Tots thing, though, that's something I'll never forget. Watching these guys just walk in with a toy and a big smile on their face. So I know I sound a little goofy, but it was really a great way to kick the holidays off for me.
no, you don't sound goofy at all. I think that's beautiful. A couple things. One, if Howard Brickman is talking, I'm getting out a pen and paper, and I'm going to take notes. I mean, he is that you brought in the best of the best. So that what a nice surprise for the class, and for the kids. You know, for a little kid to get a present like that means the world, man. I mean, just that is just freaking awesome, man. That's I can tell you firsthand. We lived in a poor part of town in Kentucky, and the fire department came through and was handing out presents to everybody. And for a little kid, man, that means everything. So
Yeah, got to give another shout out too to Frank for helping us out with the boxes and you know getting the Toys for Tots thing going. And man, it was just a great day, great 3 days.
yeah, Frank has been involved with that for a long time. Gives his time, gets up early in the morning, gives a lot of his time to give out stuff to the for Toys for Tots for kids. And I think one of like the biggest chapters in America, like for giving, I mean, it's so successful. Yeah, he teamed up with the Marines somehow. I'm probably screwing this some up, but they had
Well, I
like
think it started and it still is. It started with Marines that were deployed overseas, and they would give gifts to the kids who were
Oh, okay.
deployed. Okay.
Oh,
And now it's spun off to, it's still deployed Marine kids, but it's also sick kids in hospitals
yeah.
and, kids less
Hmm.
fortunate, poor kids, I guess, or I don't know if we can even say that anymore. But, um, you know, but to me, you got all these hard guys, you know what I mean? All these tough, hardened
Yeah.
contractors
Yeah. Coming
and
with teddy bears and
coming in with teddy bears and big, 3-foot dolls. I mean, it was just the funniest thing you ever saw. It was
wow.
it was heartwarming. It really was.
Yeah. Yeah.
It
Truly.
was a freaking Hallmark movie. It was our version of a Hallmark
There
movie,
you there you go. There you go. Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah.
All right, Rob. Um, this might be the most interesting episode we've ever done, and I think people really need to listen to this episode, and it might be a bit of an eye opener. And we're going to talk a little bit about money here. And you and I often focus on getting more money out of your career. We think the most value we can offer, other than Bona product knowledge, is hopefully improving someone's livelihood, right? I think it's fair to say that neither you or I had a whole lot of direction when we started out. I mean, as far as business goes, I mean, we got some direction on how to do floors, but on the business side of it, it was basically the school of hard knocks. Would you agree?
Oh yeah. Oh, definitely. Yes.
So we would like, I mean, part of the, when we talked about doing this podcast, is one of the reasons what we thought we could add value, whatever, is that help other people, that they don't have to go through some of the same mistakes and trial and error that we did. We've gotten beat up over the years on different things, and
That would actually be a good name for the show.
it's that.
Don't do what we did.
Yeah. I mean, looking at Rob as I am right now, looking back at me, he's a shell of a healthy man. Let's be honest. A hollowed out wreck of a man, perhaps. I mean, but I digress.
But still happy.
But still happy. Yeah. But
Yeah.
so I'm going to talk about something here and you and I, Rob, we talked about this earlier, and I think this is going to be an eye opener. So if you're driving down the road, you might want to just like listen to this when you can really kind of digest this. So, and the question is, and I'm going to give at the end of the show, I'm going to give credit to somebody where we got this information. How much do you have to charge for yourself to make the average capita income in the United States? Okay, so how much do you need to charge for yourself, just to be average? Okay, would say, say if you want to make $53,504 a year in gross pay. Okay, so that's kind of like the across the country, about the average. Okay, so if you want to gross that much, that's about $1,000 a week. Okay, to
Mm-hmm.
break it down, about $205 a day, and just under 25 dollars and
25 bucks an hour. Just under
yeah,
25 an hour.
it's like $25.72 an hour, and that's if you're working. Now this is important. That's if you're working an 8-hour day, 5 days a week. Okay.
Okay.
If you're going to the trouble of working for yourself, and you might as well get some holidays in there too. So we got to include those. Now there's 11 federal holidays.
Well, wait a minute. How many actual working days does a guy have in a year?
Well, I'll get into that.
Okay.
Okay. So there's 11 federal holidays, but I'm not going to include all the federal holidays. I'll put 6 of them in there. Okay. So to get paid on the days that you don't work, those holiday days, you have to charge more on the days that you do work. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the average number of vacation days across the country is, say, 10. Okay. I think that's fair to say. So you got to throw those in too.
2 weeks.
Okay. Yep. I mean, after all, why go to the trouble working for yourself if you're not going to get, some holidays off and, so a vacation for yourself. Okay.
Right.
So now you got 244 days to reach the goal of $53,504. Okay. Now, because you threw in the holidays, those days that you're taking off, I mean, that, you need to get paid for those too. So now you're 25 some dollars an hour, you have to give yourself a raise to $27.41 an hour. Okay, but that's just getting started. Okay. Now let's add in general liability insurance. Okay, figure $825 for that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
If you have an average work van, that's going to cost you $9,000 a year. Okay, for an average work van. Now you got to insure that van, so that's an additional $1,300 a year to insure the van. Right.
Mm-hmm.
Now the cost of tools can vary widely, so we'll leave that out for now. Okay. $1,000 to cover yourself if you get hurt using those tools, right?
Right. So right now you're at $3,000 in insurance.
Yep. Yep.
$3,000 just in insurance.
Yeah.
And
Well,
9,000 for a truck.
okay. So yeah. So you're looking at another $12,000, right?
All the insurances added together,
Yeah.
you're at $3,000.
$3,000. The 9,000 for the truck. That's another $12,000. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So that's just for the privilege to earn an average pay. So that $25.70 needs to be more like $33.60 an hour. Okay.
Right.
So, but now we have to use our 244 days to make almost $65,675 to gross to $53,000 a year. Okay. So you got the 244 day working days to make. Now you've added that on top of that. It's got to be $65,675 to make $53,000 a year. Okay.
Right.
But you have to figure that you're not going to get paid on all 244 of those days. I mean, let's assume you only use 1 day a week to work on your business, like marketing and estimating and selling new job and coordinating job and stuff like that. So if you do that, now you've got 194 days to make that $65,000, okay, to make your money.
So that number is 194. So you started with 244.
Yep.
We had 10 days for vacation, 6 days federal holiday. That's 16.
Yep.
And now another 50 days because 1 day a week you're out doing estimates, billing, marketing, working on your business. So those days you're not generating any money. So now we're up to 66.
So that's 194 days now.
Okay.
But say, because you're human, you're not always going to be productive. Say only 90% of the time you're productive, right? And you're going to make mistakes and surprises are going to come up and there's going to be delays on jobs and whatever. So that 90% in mind, now you're down to 175 days to make your $65,675. Okay. So if you divide that and do the math on that, now you need to be charging $47.91 an hour to gross $53,504. Now that does not include gas in the van. Okay. So the reason why we say this, and also if you're an employee and let's say I'm just going to throw out a number, you're making $27 an hour and you see that like the boss charged $60 for such and such, you think, oh, I'm making 27, he's making 30, I'm doing all the work. But that's not the case. You see where this money goes.
Yeah.
And if you're working for yourself and you think, well, how much do I really need to charge in order to make the money that I need to make? This gives you a really good kind of breakdown. Now, what's interesting about this is that according to the National Association of Realtors, the value you recover from installing a new hardwood floor is 106% when you go to sell that house. Okay. So they're getting all that money back. 106% of what they invested. I mean, look at all the other projects they can do in that house and stack that up of where you know what I mean? Yeah. So it's a great investment for the client. So when we talk about knowing your worth and knowing what value you bring to that house and to that client and whatever, it's tremendous.
When you saw that, I love to interrupt you.
That's okay.
But when you saw that, what a wood floor does, did it say what an LVP floor does?
I look for that, but it cannot surely not hold anywhere near the value.
No way. It's a throwaway floor.
Yeah.
It's a temporary floor.
Yeah.
Pergo.
So
I would love to know if a wood floor is 106%. I'd love to know what an LVP is, because if I watch one more of these damn shows that Pauline watches, and they're like, "Oh, and we put the LVP in because it saved us so much money," and blah blah blah. I'm like, "Well, you just lost value to the home.
Yeah.
That's what you did."
But my point here, I guess, if someone says, "Hey, gosh, you charge $60 an hour, you guys are charging $70 an hour, or whatever," God, I mean, I can't believe how much you guys charge. Well, that's the reason. You know what I mean? That's the reason. You have to charge that much in order to take home, just like an average per capita income across the country. So I think a lot of people are always trying to figure out, well, what do I need to charge and how much should I charge and whatever. This kind of gives you, especially when you break down the amount of days that you're productive, the days, if you include days off and holidays, of kind of what you need to charge. So I don't know. I think that's interesting.
It almost breaks down to, if you want to make 55,000 a year, you have to charge $50 an hour. Am I
Yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah,
Right? I mean, just rounding
yeah,
up
yeah.
everything.
Just round it up. Yeah.
Round it up.
But
And
like I
$50
said,
an hour on an 8-hour day, it's not 200 a day. That's
well,
$400 a day.
and here's the thing. It's that doesn't even include gas in the van yet. So
Yeah.
really, I
Or
think you need to be
tools.
your tools. Yeah,
Doesn't include tools.
$100 an hour is not out of line.
No.
Yeah,
Not when you absolutely not.
yeah, it's not.
Absolutely not.
Yeah, and then here's the thing too. If you also start thinking about, all right, down the road, I might need a knee replacement. I might need, my body's going to break down or whatever. I may not be as productive down the road. You have to look at, what that's going to cost. And I think it's,
And you never even threw health insurance in.
yeah,
No tools, no health insurance.
yeah.
I mean,
So here's the thing. There's an expression in the car industry is that you're trying to buy too much car for your money. Um, you know, and if you go to a car lot and a car dealer is not going to sell a car for what he's not comfortable with. That car will just sit on that lot. That's just the way it is. If it doesn't make sense to him, he's not comfortable with the number, he's not going to sell that car. I take a loss. That car is going to sit on the lot. So sometimes I wonder if flooring jobs were on that same, on a car lot, like here's a floor job, here's a floor job, here's a floor job. They're all sitting on the lot. With floor guys, would they all sit on that lot, or would some floor guy come and just, yeah, I'll do it for less. 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 And then there's no car sitting on that lot anymore. You know what I mean?
yeah.
So I don't know. I think in the Hall of Fame, I think if you're batting, if 300, you're in the Hall of Fame.
On your
I think,
estimates.
yeah,
If you're getting 1 out of 3 estimates,
yeah,
right, those are Hall of Fame numbers. And when Pete and I were doing the floors together, I was the estimator,
hmm
and he was the bookkeeper. My batting average was 1 for 2.
hmm
I was very proud of that batting average, very proud of that. But I look back and I'm thinking, you just weren't charging enough.
yeah,
If you were getting half of the jobs, I wasn't charging enough money.
yeah,
I was more interested in my batting average than I was bottom line.
hmm
And now I look back, and after you sent me this guy's info and I started watching some of his clips and everything, I was like, wow, that is something that I was very proud of. And now, like, you were completely wrong.
yeah.
You,
So
1 out of 3 is amazing. If you're
according
getting
to
1 out of 2, you're not charging enough money.
Yeah. Like according to this guy, most people should think you're too expensive when you do your estimates.
Yeah. Yes.
So, you know, that also can help you retire. And the other thing it was saying, what I was interesting, is that, you want to start with the end in mind. What is it? What is the goal here that you want to do? And then you have to remove yourself in every way possible so the business can run itself, or you need to make enough money that the day you stop doing floors, you don't need any more money. You know what I mean? So you have to be able to somehow set the business up where it doesn't need you on any aspect of the business. It can all run without you. And I think that's interesting too. I certainly didn't do that. We're preaching to the choir. We're not, we're not holier than thou. I mean, obviously, we made every mistake that can be made too. So, um,
And another one that he said was charging for estimates.
yeah. And
Uh,
we talked to,
and we've had a couple of guys on the show
yep.
who
That's
swear by that. Yeah.
yep. The other thing he said, what I thought was very interesting, is do not work for investors or house flippers. They're often are cutting every cost they can possibly cut in every corner to save money. And personally, that doesn't fit with my set of values anyhow. And the risk isn't worth the reward on that, because it doesn't make any sense, because traditionally they don't pay well anyhow. And then you're having to cut corners and everything, and so that's the likelihood of a callback is more prevalent. And so I don't know. I kind of agree with that. I never had a good feeling of working for house flippers. That's just my opinion, by the way, just my opinion. And so anyhow, I thought that was pretty interesting. The other thing he said was, reach out to somebody that's 10 years ahead of you in the industry to see what they're doing, to see what works and doesn't work. And we kind of talked about that before. And then also safety first. That no part of this is worth your health. And I can tell you, that should be a high priority. I mean, as you get older, that doesn't mean anything to you. Like I said before, you feel like you're bulletproof when you're a kid until you're not. And then, all those things add up over time. That's why you see everybody, old guys walking around with a limp and everything. So, that make sure you take care of your health. But I thought this show would be kind of important, just maybe help someone, because people are always wondering, I wonder what I should charge and blah, blah, blah. A lot of us, we charge by the hour, but you can break that down and what your costs are.
Another thing that we've heard my woe was me stories about the accounting and the IRS and everything. And when he said, take the accounting part of your business serious, I was like, yeah, definitely take that part serious. That was a really good suggestion that he had too.
Yep. So let's give this guy
the other thing that he said, and I know that we've been accused of being greedy. He was talking about raise your prices to the point where you're pricing jobs like you don't want it.
Yeah, like you don't even care if you get it or not.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, when you start doing that, at first you're like, oh god, it's a lot of money, and you feel kind of like, I don't know if I should be doing this. But you get in the habit of doing that, and it's habit. Like you don't even care, and especially when you find out that it works. It's the same thing when I was young, and when I first started giving the contracts to people. At first when I did a floor job for someone, I didn't ask for a contract. And I just felt like, I don't know about that, man. Maybe he thinks I don't trust him or blah blah blah. Once you start handing out the contracts with people, you wouldn't do it any other way. You know what I mean? It was just part of what we did. And by the way, I probably had 150 people ask me for my contract. I sent that. I hope everybody that asked for it got one. If you didn't, if I missed somebody, just email me again, wayne.highlander@bona.com. But I think I got everybody that asked for a copy of the contract. But yeah.
What are you charging for that? $299, $399?
Yeah.
For that contract?
Yeah, I'm sorry, a little side money. Yeah.
Yeah, attaboy.
No, I'm not charging anything. Let's give this guy credit. He's a do-it-yourself remodel guy. And it's Remodel School is his name of his channel, and I don't know his name.
Yeah, it's remodel dash. What do they call that? Underscore remodel.
Yeah,
remodel underscore school. He's on Instagram.
Yeah.
And
so anyhow,
I started really watching a bunch of his videos. He makes a lot of sense, and he gets into all sorts of different types of construction.
Yeah, a lot of it isn't germane to what we do, whatever. But I thought this was interesting because
if you can just pick and choose a couple things that he's saying, it does it definitely
Yeah.
flows into what our guys do.
One of the other thing he said it's better to be a what let me get it right here. It's better to be a power washer than a handyman. And in other words, what he's saying is find a niche. And you could say hardwood floors is a niche because we just specialize in hardwood floors. But there's a I think a niche
Yeah.
within a niche.
Hmm.
Like some guys focus on green, whatever. Focus on female clients that are maybe worried about safety or whatever, and then they kind of gear their business towards that, and send a picture. Here's what my guys look like, and blah 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 blah. Well, anyhow, you kind of get what my meaning.
Especially with today's words, sustainability, green, all that
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah, if you focus on that, or if that's your niche,
Well,
it's
certainly
going
to
to
the
be
younger,
huge.
look at the younger generation that are buying homes. I mean, how important sustainability is, and companies CSR. I mean, corporate social responsibility. That means a lot to them. So it's a big deal to them, and they want to know that your company has some core values.
Sure.
So you want to make
That
sure you
match
put
up
that
with
out.
theirs, right?
Yeah, that align with theirs exactly. All right, Rob. So anyhow, I appreciate your input on that. And when you and I talked about this, we thought it'd be kind of pretty enlightening. So, I never did ask you, did you do any decorating this year for Christmas?
Biggest year ever.
Really?
Back, front, biggest year of lights ever. And our tree out front, it's about, I don't know, it's 20, 25 feet tall. And it used to take me, when I did it by myself, it used to take me about 8 hours on the ladder, up and down the ladder, with giant rods in my hand,
You know,
trying to get stuff to the top of the tree. Okay. I know it does, you say 20, 25 feet, doesn't sound like that much.
no.
But when you're up on a ladder
Oh yeah.
and you're still only like halfway there. So like I said, when I was doing it by myself, it was 8 hours. There might have been a little crying sometimes. Okay. It was hard. It was misery.
Okay. Let me
But
ask. Go
all right,
ahead.
go ahead. Go
Let me
ahead.
ask you this.
Yeah.
So let's say you're up on the ladder, you
Yeah.
hanging Christmas decorations, and you're 20 feet off the ground. Okay. And what if you fell and were paralyzed? The risk isn't worth the reward.
No, it definitely is. You got to see the tree.
Okay.
You got to see the tree, man. You can see it. You can see our tree from about a quarter mile away
Really?
in pitch black.
Hmm.
It just lights, it's crazy. Okay. I get people that stop. I get people that write letters, drop a note. We love the tree every year. We look forward to seeing the tree. People are talking to my kids like, "Oh, your dad's tree. We can't wait to look forward to it." So now I have to do it. It's for the community. It's not even for me anymore. It's for the community.
Okay.
And it's funny you said, "What if you fell off?" Okay, because a few years ago I'm doing it, and I'm sticking my arm in, trying to, hook a light or whatever, and I must have disrupted a bird nest or something, and these two birds come whipping out, and I nearly fell off the ladder. I mean, it
Wow.
was,
Wow.
so I'm like, all right, you know, so I have the boys help me. Emily's husband, Brian, he'll help me,
Okay.
or Bum helps me do it.
That's nice.
Remember, I told it used to take eight. Oh, it's awesome. It used to take 8 hours.
Yep.
When I have a helper, under 2 hours.
Wow.
I'm like the ground crew. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they're up. Yeah, they're just, you think of me, somebody, of my stature,
Yep.
and the higher you get on that ladder, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It, and it's a heavy duty ladder too. It's no cheapy. It's, you
Yeah.
know, but there's a lot of weight on the top. And that doesn't
Yeah.
bode well.
Yeah.
So now
Well,
I'm the ground guy.
you should
But
be.
with a
Yeah.
helper, boom. So, anyways, how many light sets do you think? Now, a light set is 25 foot long. Take a guess on how many light sets I put on that
10.
tree this year. 10
I was going to say 10, but just for a tree,
for the tree? Yeah.
6.
28.
Good God.
The tree
No
is
kidding.
enormous. No.
Wow. You have pictures of it?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Show me.
Gosh, yeah.
Send me a picture.
I will.
I'd like to see it.
Actually, I took pictures of all the kids,
Hmm.
each family in front of it this year when it was lit up. They come out
Nice.
pretty amazing. But I really wanted to do that just so everybody knew how high this tree is. 28 sets. I have to use different outlets throughout the house
Yeah.
because when I put it all in the one circuit, I kept blowing that circuit.
Holy smokes.
Yeah.
I feel like I would never have been a good granddad. Because my kids come over to go, Granddad, are you going to put up a tree? And I go, I don't know. You really want one? I don't know. So I would have to change completely, I think, if I had grandkids.
Yeah. Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. My son said, "You guys you're that old now. You don't do a tree in the house anymore." And I said, "Why don't you go through the house and see how many trees your mother has in this house?"
Yeah.
She has 18 trees.
That's unbelievable.
18 trees. Like, there's one right over my shoulder in my office.
Wow.
Yeah, she's got them spread out throughout the house. So I said, we can't do one, we do 18. That one there, though, that one over my shoulder has an ornament that she made for me. Now, when you're stringing all these lights together, each 25-foot strand has a little fuse in there, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I was blowing fuses like crazy. So I wrapped them in tinfoil.
Okay.
Wrapped the fuses in tinfoil. And then one day Pauline goes, the tree's flashing, and I think I see a flame. And the plug was on fire.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, so that's the ornament she made, is this melted plug ornament. I'll send you a picture of that too. That's always been a
was it
one.
what was it because of the that you wrapped them?
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So public safety announcement, don't wrap your fuses in tinfoil.
Huh. Well, thank you, Rob. I appreciate everything. We're off to another year, you and I together.
Man, how many shows is this?
It's gotta be around 250.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a bunch.
So we're starting our 6th year.
It's hard to believe, isn't it?
That's insane.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yep, it is. Well, all right, Rob. I appreciate it. We have another interesting episode coming up next week. I'm excited about. We won't talk about it yet. Also, we have to announce the winners of the video for the giveaway for the flow adhesive. So we'll do that on the next podcast. So there you go. This has been another episode of On the Floor with Wayne and Rob. Please stay tuned for another episode.